So you want to get into lapidary? Well, Diamond Pacific has a grinding machine where it recycles the water in the tray. Or you can build yourself a custom lapidary machine with the diamond wheels. I'm lucky enough to have a handy dandy husband where he put this together for me. And going through a remodeling on my cab machine. So I want to show you what it looks like underneath with the wiring if you want to do it yourself. Hard times, inflation and all. So I want to show you how my husband did the underneath. And then it comes along like this. Okay. So I'm going to
water faucets and drain.
And then I'm going to have a water faucet back here for draining into a bucket down here. Okay, these are my old pans. And these are going to be my new pans where I have space here. A lot more room. And that will be attached to that piece of wood board that you saw before. Okay, now my hubby has the board upright. You saw underneath, and this is what it looks on top before.
Showing the rough end of the electrical plugs, and then the 2 electrical wires going to the motor, and water coming from the faucet will be going to the cab machines.
And how did you hook up the water, sweetheart?
It goes over through the water connections over there.
The water connections and
Next video.
And I think he hooked it up to a wall that on the other side is our kitchen sink. So let me come up a little bit closer so you can see the wiring. How he has this.
Just trying to kind of get an A and B and connect it with the seat. Basically, breaking it down into more manageable. The bulk of it is.
Okay, now we have the stainless steel pans on top of the wood frame that I showed you. Come in a closer look so you can see my husband drilled a hole here for drainage. Another one over on this side, he drilled a hole with drainage. And what'd you use to...
And 4 mounting holes for the arbor.
Oh, 4 mounting holes for the arbor.
And then duplicated it on this pan.
And we have a second pan, and he duplicated the same thing over here. Is there anything else you did, sweetie?
Nope, that's it for now.
That's it for now. Okay. I showed you the pan. So these are the motors that we are going to use. Bracket. The motor will go onto this, screwed in.
Goes onto the bracket, and then the bracket goes onto the black.
Yeah, then the bracket.
To the mounting plate.
Yes, like that. Yes, like that. Thank you, sweetie. And then, of course...
When it's done, it will look like that.
When it's done, it'll look like that. Yes. And then these will go into the pan, this arbor here, with its hood. And this is the top. Here's the other arbor. And the top. There you go. And I'm coming around the back of the hood so you can see how the water hose is, how the water comes into each diamond wheel. There you go. And here we are.
At this point, we want to make sure our pans are watertight so we don't have it going everywhere. So I take a little bit of silicone, put it around the base of where the mount for our arbor came through. Put a washer over the top of that to create a seal, and then a nut to tighten it all down. This will give us a watertight seal on the nuts. And this is the mounts for our arbors to go onto. So give me a second here and we'll get that bolt down.
Onto the pan.
And then we'll just tighten it down and wipe off any of the excess that's there, as it wouldn't matter because it will be covered by the arbors, which will also be water sealed with silicone, down to the pan. So water shouldn't even get into here, but if it does, we have the extra backup here on the nuts. The other thing we will want to do at this point, now that I got the nut almost there, sorry about that, it's a long bolt, is we will do that same thing around here. We'll put a bead of silicone in, then comes the rubber washer, and the nut. It's just hard to try to hold everything and do it all at once and show you. And this will go into the holes we drilled for our drains, making them watertight so the water has to run into the drain and not leak out around it.
Okay, before my husband puts this all together, I thought maybe you'd take a look at the underneath part again. You can see it all. Going along here.
Mom didn't like hanging up there, but there's two. The dog, and then the third one says extra small on it, or says XS.
I should turn. Well, and then you got the motor. Okay, we have the pans.
After having returned our pans back to their position from checking all the plumbing underneath, we're now moving on to mounting the motor. What we are going to use are these standard door hinges mounted into our board, and then a small board mounted to the motor itself. What this will allow us to do is use the weight of the motor against the belt to make our tension adjustments on our arbors. The main thing is be sure that the pulley is lined up with where the arbor pulley will be. Okay, our next step is going to be to install our arbors and wheels. Ours are already set up since we had done an earlier cab machine, and that what we want to do is put them in here, check our alignment, make sure the belt and the motors are right squared in and behind each other, and then we will be siliconing around the bases to make a nice watertight seal there, and then let them dry overnight, and tomorrow we will show you some more after we attach our bolts here to hold them down.
Okay.
After getting our pans up, we got our electrical motors finally hooked up. We went ahead and mounted our arbors. First I took around the bottom and applied silicone, sat them down on their mounts, and secured the bolts to hold the arbor in place. And then using the silicone again, I sealed around the base. Again, the purpose is we want our pans to be nice and watertight. Back here you can see the fan belt, as we talked to you about on the pulley. Your motor comes forward, the fan belt goes over it. Pause. Our motor, as we talked about, had been mounted on the little hinge thing. You can see here how it comes forward and then drops back to apply the right amount of tension to our arbor, thus allowing us to be able to run the arbor. And you can see our machine, arbors and motors are now getting closer to being done. Our next stage will be putting on our hoods, which were prefabricated before, so we have a couple small modifications. But I usually like to attach mine with a wing nut and a bolt. You see I pre-drilled the holes to match our existing hoods. You will have to do your own. But I like the wing nut and nut. That way when I go to take it off, it's easier to just take a wing nut off than a nut. Well, we've reinstalled our hoods back onto our project here. As you can see, we're all set up and ready to go. We have water coming back to them. We have our drains in. They've been tested and going over to a bucket there for collecting. So all we have to do is turn on our water. You can see it dripping down on the wheel there, which will come down here and do it.
Well, where did the water come from, sweetie? Either you can have a big bucket like this, because the water drains into there. You can have two of them, one for the water to drain in, and another big bucket where you have a
submersible pump.
Yes.
Pumping it up in. Or as we have done, we've brought water in from out of our kitchen to a faucet over here. Because my wife doesn't like cold water on her hands, so we can turn the warm water on, to add the hot and the warm. We can get the water the temperature she wants, and then it plumbs into the back of the machines. So as you can see, we've got water coming on. The machines will power up. Wrong machine. And we are ready to grind. You see, very little spray comes out because we're using leather with some pads behind it to keep the water down onto the wheels. And our adjustable lighting so we can either shine it on whichever side we're working on.
And let me show what the wheels, babe. We did one with 80, one with 200, 280, 800, 1200, 3,000, 14,000, and you finish it off with 50,000. So there you go. This is a custom-made lapidary grinding machine. I hope we enjoyed. Bye.